11 Costco foods are going to get harder to find after the 1st of July 2026. Not all at once, and not with any announcement. Quietly, one product at a time, until the shelf you've been pulling from for years just looks a little different. I didn't get this from a tip or a rumor. I checked the government data, the tariff schedules, the trade reports, and the can manufacturing numbers, and they all point the same direction. There's a real reason the date matters. A stack of cost pressures that have been building all year start landing on retail shelves right around mid-2026. We're going through all 11, counting down to the one that's going to hit the most households. And the first item on this list is going to seem like a joke. It isn't. The reason it's first is the whole point. Let's get into it. Number 11. Kirkland canned Vienna sausages. You probably just rolled your eyes. Most people do, and that reaction is exactly why this item opens the list. Vienna sausages never show up on a prep list. Nobody stockpiles them. They get tossed in a cart without a second thought. That invisibility is the tell the items nobody's watching are always the first ones to move. Here's the mechanism, and it's going to matter for half this list. The cost pressure on canned food right now isn't mainly about what's inside the can. It's the can itself. Section 232 tariffs on imported steel and aluminum have pushed the cost of can stock sharply higher, and the can accounts for roughly a third of the wholesale cost of a typical canned product. When that input jumps, manufacturers don't spread the pain evenly. They cut the thinnest margin products first. Vienna sausages are about as thin margin as it gets. No retailer fights for shelf space on something that barely clears its cost at the new structure. What's inside is more useful than the reputation suggests. Fully cooked, sealed in brine, no prep, no heat, no water. Roughly 180 calories and 7 grams of protein per serving, with a 3 to 5 year shelf life at room temperature. Not glamorous. Just ready to eat when ready to eat is what matters. Buy the store brand. The name brands raise prices first, then quietly disappear. Hold on to that pattern, you're going to watch it play out 10 more times. Number 10. Kirkland canned sardines. Most people treat sardines as a backup, something you reach for when nothing better is left. That's backwards. And right now, it's costing people. Look at what's in a single small tin. Over 20 grams of protein, a couple of grams of omega, 3S, and a few hundred milligrams of calcium, and that calcium isn't an additive. It comes entirely from the soft, edible bones. Add vitamin D, B12, and selenium. One can gives you complete protein, calcium, omega, 3S, and healthy fat at the same time. Almost nothing else in the aisle does all of that at this price. The pressure side is simple. Seafood prices have been climbing faster than general inflation, and sardines sell steadily but not at tuna volume, so when something has to be cut, the sardine section thins before anyone notices. One thing almost nobody knows: sardines packed in olive oil actually improve for the first year or two as the oil and the fish integrate. Stocking up doesn't mean settling for worse. Buy olive oil packed, not water, not soy oil, wild-caught, bone-in. Put them away and leave them alone. Number 9. Kirkland canned wild salmon. This is the one item where the tariff is the smaller of two problems, and that's exactly what makes it worth your attention. Start with the trade side. The majority of the salmon Americans eat is imported Chile and Norway-led, with Canada supplying a large volume of farmed Atlantic salmon on top of that. Canada now sits under a 25% tariff, and Norwegian product falls under the EU's 15% baseline. 3 major supply channels, all under cost pressure at once. But here's what makes salmon different from everything else on this list. The supply itself is shrinking. The Gulf of Maine is warming faster than almost any comparable body of water in the Northern Hemisphere, and Pacific salmon runs are contracting as ocean temperatures shift. This isn't a cycle that resets when a trade deal gets signed. Tariffs raise the cost of what exists. Warming oceans reduce how much exists. So even if the tariffs ease, the supply those lower rates apply to will be physically smaller than what's on the shelf today. The window closes from both ends. Nutritionally, it's hard to beat. One can covers a full week's recommended seafood serving, with complete protein, omega, 3S, vitamin D, and B12. Buy wild-caught pink or sockeye in a sealed tin. 3 to 5 year shelf life. Avoid anything labeled Atlantic salmon. That almost always means farmed, with lower omega-3 content. Buy it while it's still priced for a world where those supply chains are intact. Number 8. Kirkland canned tuna. You almost certainly have this in your pantry right now. The issue isn't whether you have it, it's how much less you have than you probably should. The inexpensive can of tuna was built on two things: cheap processing in Southeast Asia and cheap aluminum. Both of those inputs are under pressure at the same time. The US imports the large majority of its seafood, and tuna processing runs through Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia countries where tariff rates have been volatile, with higher rates paused rather than canceled. The supply chain has already priced that uncertainty in. Add the same can cost mechanism from the aluminum tariffs, and the old price point isn't coming back. For storage, water-packed light tuna is the right call. No oil to oxidize, so it holds better over years. 3 to 5 year shelf life in metal cans. Skip the pouches for long-term storage. The seal degrades faster than metal. Buy cases over singles. Write the purchase date on the lid and rotate first in, first out. Number 7. Kirkland extra virgin olive oil. This is the one I spent the most time on, because every layer I uncovered made the one before it worse. Start with what already happened. Back-to-back Mediterranean droughts pushed global olive oil prices to roughly double their earlier levels. Spain, Italy, and Greece all had catastrophic harvest years, and prices had only just started easing when the tariffs arrived. The US sources the overwhelming majority of its olive oil, around 95%, from those three countries, and all three are EU members now facing the 15% baseline tariff on food imports. A supply channel that covers nearly all American olive oil, under direct policy pressure stacked on a market that was already strained. But here's the layer that puts it this high. Olive oil doesn't just affect olive oil. If you're buying sardines in olive oil, tuna in olive oil, any product packed in it, the can cost is up, and the oil cost is up at the same time. Two of the three main inputs for those products are climbing together. Olive oil sets the cost structure for a whole shelf of other foods. The nutrition is its own argument. A calorie-dense, shelf-stable fat, mostly monounsaturated, with real anti-inflammatory properties from the extra virgin grade. And the shelf life isn't a guess. Olive oil has been stored in sealed vessels for 3,000 years. Archaeologists have pulled Roman-era oil from intact containers. This was engineered by generations to survive winters and sieges. Buy it in tins, not glass and not plastic. Light degrades olive oil faster than anything, and tins block it completely. Look for a harvest date on the label, not just a best buy, and aim for one within the last 18 months. Before the next item, here's the thing. This video covers a handful of items. The full list, all 150, in 10 sections, each with how much to store, how to keep it, and the cheap substitute most people miss is in one place. It's the shortage playbook. Real 2026 prices, numbers not vibes, plus a don't buy list of 12 products that just waste your budget. It's built to shop 2 items a week on normal trips. Launch price is $37, down from $67, with a 7-day guarantee. Links in the description at colebriggsecrets.com. Now stay right here, because the next item is one almost nobody stocks, and it empties faster than anything we've covered so far. Number 6. Kirkland canned corned beef. Most people don't have this on any list at all. That's going to change, and the reason is already showing up in beef prices. Beef and veal have climbed sharply year over year, and USDA economists have described the cause as a kind of perfect storm, a cattle herd that was already contracting when import tariffs landed on top of it. More than half the red meat in the US supply has historically come from Canada, now under a 25% tariff, and labor costs across meatpacking are climbing too. All of those pressures flow into the cost of any beef product, including what's sealed in a can. Here's why corned beef specifically belongs on this list. Brined, heat-sealed canned beef is one of the most proven shelf-stable proteins that exists. Military testing has shown these preparations holding up for a decade or more with minimal quality loss. This isn't new technology. British working families ate it for 2 centuries. It was a standard Allied field ration in World War II, and Pacific Island communities built whole culinary traditions around it through mid-century military supply chains. 3 ounces gives you around 210 calories, 25 grams of protein, a complete amino acid profile, plus B12, zinc, and iron, the 3 nutrients hardest to maintain when protein gets expensive. Look for Brazilian or Argentine imports. Buy before the tariff costs fully pass through to retail, and check every can. A dent along a seam can mean a broken seal, and a broken seal means the product is compromised. Number 5. Kirkland whole bean coffee. I'll be honest, coffee surprised me because the coffee aisle at Costco never looks thin. That's exactly the trap. The US put a steep tariff on Brazilian coffee, and Brazil supplies roughly 40% of the world's production. Colombia, another major source for the US, faces pressure of its own. Coffee prices have already risen far faster than their normal annual pace. A category that usually moves 2 to 3% a year has seen increases many times that. When margin pressure builds, the large premium bags go first. The aisle stays full, backfilled with smaller or cheaper options. So most people don't notice until the specific bag they've bought for years simply isn't there. Coffee stores better than people think if you handle it right. Buy whole bean, portion it into weekly amounts, vacuum seal each portion, and freeze it pull straight to the grinder from frozen. Sealed and frozen, it holds full quality for around 2 years. Number 4. Kirkland canned chickpeas. This one has been under quiet supply pressure longer than most people realize, and it's still building. India is the world's top chickpea producer, and Indian wholesale prices hit record highs in 2025 with no major new harvest available until the following spring. At the same time, the federal government scaled back its dry bean purchasing program, the institutional backstop that helps stabilize U.S. legume supply by a significant margin. And the biggest legume exporters to the U.S., including Mexico, Peru, and Canada, are all under active tariff pressure. Every major channel for this product squeezed at once. The nutrition is why it's worth the shelf space. 1 cup of canned chickpeas delivers around 270 calories, 15 grams of protein, 45 grams of complex carbs, and 12 grams of fiber, plus iron and folate. One of the most complete plant proteins you can buy in a can at any price. People have grown chickpeas in the Fertile Crescent for roughly 7,500 years. Every major pre-refrigeration civilization in the region built its protein supply around legumes for exactly this reason. 2 things most people get wrong. Buy no salt added, because the sodium limits how you can use it. And don't drain the liquid that brine, called aquafaba, works as a functional egg substitute in baking. In any scenario where eggs get expensive or scarce, the liquid in the bottom of the can has real value. Don't pour it down the sink. Number 3. Kirkland evaporated milk. This one gets passed over because it seems basic. Right now, it's anything but, because it's being hit from 2 directions at once. I think of it as the double squeeze item. The first squeeze is the ingredient. U.S. dairy is producing at lower volumes. Butter prices are up around 25% year over year, and milk powder, a key input, is significantly imported and already under cost pressure. The second squeeze is the can. The can manufacturing industry has signaled bigger cost increases ahead, and the can is 1/3 of wholesale cost. Both the contents and the container climbing at the same time. What you get for that shelf space is versatility. 1 cup of evaporated whole milk gives you roughly 340 calories, 17 grams of protein, and solid calcium. And it works as a cooking fat substitute, a coffee base, a soup starter, or a baking liquid. Buy full fat, not fat-free, which has lower caloric density and a shorter practical life. Evaporated, not condensed. No added sugar means you can use it in savory or sweet without thinking about it. Number 2. Kirkland canned tomatoes. You almost certainly already buy this one. What most people don't see is how many separate pressures are squeezing it at the same moment. 3 of them. All converging right now. The first is water. Large stretches of the country have been under drought, and California, which leads the nation in processed tomato production, has been working through a multi-year drought cycle. The raw input for every can on the shelf is under stress at the source. The second is fuel. Tomatoes are what supply chain people call truck-intensive heavy, refrigerated, hauled, long distances in constant movement, so every increase in diesel goes more or less straight onto the shelf label. The third is the container. The same steel tariffs driving up can costs are locked into supply contracts running through 2026 and into 2027, which means there's no quick relief pathway on the packaging. The storage case is strong, and it's basic chemistry. Below a certain acidity level, virtually no spoilage organism survives the canning process, which is why canned tomatoes hold anywhere from 18 months to 5 years stored properly. You get vitamin C, potassium, and lycopene. And lycopene actually becomes more available to your body when tomatoes are cooked, which is exactly how you'll use them. Here's the one buying shift that changes your whole approach. Tomato paste is about 3 times as concentrated as crushed. 1 can of paste does the work of 3 cans of crushed in any recipe same shelf footprint, 3 times the output. Switch your long-term storage to paste and rotate crushed through everyday cooking. Skip diced for storage. The firming agent that keeps the cubes intact degrades the flavor over time. No salt paste, by the case. That's the move. Number 1. Kirkland bulk ground beef. This is the one that reaches the most carts in America, and the data behind it is the heaviest on the list. The US cattle herd is at its smallest in roughly 75 years, and rebuilding a herd isn't realistic before 2028. These animals take years to raise, so there's no quick fix on supply. On top of that, the southern border has been closed to live cattle imports following a screwworm outbreak, cutting off well over 1 million head a year that used to flow into the supply chain. The USDA's own outlook projects beef prices continuing to climb through 2026. Watch what happens at the shelf. The meat case stays full. That's the point. When cost per pound rises faster than the retail price can absorb, the oversized bulk format is the first thing restructured. The big pack shrinks, or it's replaced by a smaller one at a higher per pound price. And people don't notice until the pack they've bought for years just isn't there in the same form. Ground beef stores beautifully if you handle it right. Buy the bulk format while it's there, portion it into 1-pound blocks, vacuum seal each one, and freeze. Properly handled, it holds full quality for a year. Here's what to do this week. Everything on this list is still on the shelf right now, at prices that are going to look very reasonable in hindsight. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, the USDA, the can manufacturers, and the published tariff schedules are all pointing the same direction in different language. The question was never whether these pressures are real. It's whether you act at today's price or next year's. So here's the order. Built to spread across normal trips 2 items at a time. No panic buying. This week, start with the 3 under the most direct tariff exposure: olive oil, canned wild salmon, and water-packed tuna. Buy them by the case, not as single cans. If you find wild-caught salmon or olive oil-packed sardines at today's pricing, treat that as a genuine buying opportunity. This month, move to the next tier: canned chickpeas, tomato paste in bulk, full-fat coconut milk, and canned corned beef. The cost pressure is already real on all of them, but shelf disruption tends to land a few weeks behind the initial cost wave, so you have a little room. Before summer ends, fill in the rest. Evaporated milk by the case, sardines and mackerel in brine, store-brand Vienna sausages, and your bulk ground beef, portioned and frozen. Shelf reductions on the thin margin items usually start when summer retail contracts reprice, roughly June through August. One rule covers all of it: store everything between 50 and 70 degrees. in a dark spot off concrete floors. Write the purchase date on every can the day you bring it home, and always take the furthest out best buy date on the shelf. Oldest stock to the front, newest to the back. The Romans stored olive oil in clay, and it lasted centuries in a tin. It holds 2 years easily. The infrastructure works. The only thing on this list that won't keep at today's price is the price itself. If this helped you get ahead of it instead of caught by it, subscribe and stick around. We do this the calm way, with real numbers, before the shelves are empty. That's the whole point of this channel. Not panic, just paying attention a little earlier than everyone else. Next time, we're going deep on the freezer aisle. What disappears first when energy and import costs hit frozen food? And the fresh to frozen swaps that cost half as much for the same nutrition. So which item is going into your cart first this week? The tuna, the olive oil, or something else on the list? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one.